3, section 4, doing questions 23 to 27 on the math calculator section. Calculator out. Alright, question 23. The angles shown above are acute and sine A is equal to cos B. If A equals to 4k minus 22 and B is equal to 6k minus 13, what is the value of k? Okay, so in order to be able to solve this question, we'd have to be able to find we'd have to find a relationship between the angle A and the angle B. Well, so one thing we know when it comes to trig is that if you take the sine of a value A, or like if you take the sine of a value x, then and it's equal to y, then cos of 90 minus x is also equal to y, right? So for example, if you have sine of 15 is equal to, I don't know what the sine 15 is, but it's equal to L, then cos, okay, actually let's figure out what sine 15 is. Sine 15 is equal to L, I mean not L, sine 15 is equal to 0.26, then cos of 90 minus 15, which is equal to 75, is also equal to 75. Is also equal to 0.26. So we can use that rule to help us answer this question. Okay, so we know that A is equal to 90 minus B. No, sorry. Okay, my bad. So we know B is equal to 90 minus A. And since we were given the equations above, where it's basically saying 6k minus 13 is equal to 90 minus 4k plus 22. So let's just move the k's to one side and the constants to the other. So 10k is equal to 13 plus 90 plus 22 is equal to 125. So k has to equal to 125 divided by 10, which is 12.5. Mr. Cole has a beaker containing n milliliters of solution to distribute to the students in his chemistry class. If he gives each student 3 milliliters of solution, he will have 5 milliliters left over. In order to give each student 4 milliliters of solution, he will need an additional 21 milliliters. How many students are in the class? Alright, so we're given a variable for the number of milliliters in the solution, the number of milliliters the solution is, but let's make a variable for the number of students. Let students, the number of students equal x, right? So if each student is given 3 milliliters of solution, there will be 5 milliliters left over. That means if each student is given 3 milliliters, so 3 times x, we'll have 5 left over, so there'll be another 5 left, and that's all equal to n, the total number of milliliters. So that's one equation, but we need to have 2. So the second equation is from this phrase right here. In order to give each student 4 milliliters of solution, he will need an additional 21 milliliters. So he's got to add 21 milliliters to n for each student to have 4 milliliters of solution. So that means that means 4x, because we want each student to have 4 milliliters of solution, is equal to n plus the additional 21. So that means 4x minus 21 is equal to n. Now we can equal these to each other. So 3x plus 5 is equal to 4x minus 21. So let's just, move it around. So let's move the 21 over here and this 3x over there. So it's 26 is equal to x. So it should be D. Okay. A grain silo is built from 2 right circular cones and a right circular cylinder with internal measurements represented by the figure above. Of the following, which is the closest to the volume of the grain silo in cubic feet? All right, so we'd have to know the equations for the volume of a cylinder, and we'd have to know the equation for the volume of a pyramid. Okay, so we know the volume of a, let's just write it down. We know the volume of a cylinder is pi r squared h, but the volume of a cone is, I think it's 1/3 pi r squared h. Wait, let me just double check. Volume of cone, and of course these are given at the first page of the section. Let me check. Yes, it is 1/3 pi r squared h. So it's 1/3 pi r squared h. So a grind silo. Okay, so if you want to find the volume of this, it'd have to be. So let's just figure this out symbolically. So let's just figure this out with variables first, and then we can plug in the numbers after. So we have one cylinder and 2 cones. So we have 2/3 pi r squared h. And now we can simplify a bit further. I mean, this is extra, but like you don't have to, but you know, why not? So we can factor pi r squared h out. So pi r squared h times 1 plus 2/3. So pi r squared h times 3/3 plus 2/3 equals to 5/3. So now let's plug in the numbers. So pi, what's the radius? 5, so 25. What's the height? Oh wait, we can't do that. Because, no, we can't do that, right? Because these two, because we can't do this because the pyramids have different height from the cylinder. So we can't assume, we can't just group these together. So this has to be h1 and this has to be h2. So pi r squared, we can still factor this though, h1 plus 2/3 h2. Now let's plug in values. Pi times 25 times h1, which is 10, plus 2/3 of h2, which is, so 2/3 of 5, so that means 10/3. So let's plug that into the calculator. Shift pi 25, 10 plus 10 divided by 3, 1047.2. Great. Okay, in the xy plane, the line determined by the points 2k and k32 passes through the origin. Which of the following could be the value of k? Alright, so we're given the 2 points. We also know that the y-intercept is 0. So we can start off with the slope-intercept form. So we always have the equation y equals mx. So let's plug in one of these coordinates into this equation to find the value of m in terms of k, and then once we have value of m in terms of k, we can plug that m into the same equation which has these coordinates to find the value of k. So let's do that, because there's 2 variables here, k and m. So let's plug this in. So k is equal to m times 2, so that means m is equal to k over 2. Now we have the value of m in terms of k. Now, let's use this equation. 32 is equal to, so the x value is k, so m times k. But we know the value of m in terms of k, so 32 is equal to k over 2 times k. So 32 is equal to k squared over 2. So that means, let's move the 2 over, 64 is equal to k squared. That means k is equal to 8. Okay, rectangle was altered by increasing its length by 10% and decreasing its width by p%. If these alterations decrease the area of the rectangle by 12%, what is the value of p? Alright, so we could use variables, but like, we don't have to. We just know that um, it increased its length by 10%. So it'd be 1.1 times, like since we know area is equal to length times width, and now we have 1.1 times L times P times W is equal to so decrease the area of the rectangle by 12%. So we know that it's 0.88 of the area. But we don't need these variables. So we can just simplify it to 1.1 P is equal to 0.88. Now we just have to divide 0.88 divided by 1.1, which is equal to 0.8. So that means there's a 20% decrease in the area if there's 0.8 remaining. So let's see.